Hello, I'm Joe Bauernfreund and I'm the Portfolio Manager of AVI Japan Opportunity Trust, or AJOT as it is known. At AVI, we've been managing investment trusts since 1985, and we offer investors a specialist research-driven approach across all the strategies we run.
Hello, I am Nicola Takada. I am AVI's Managing Director for Japan, and I've been involved in the Japanese equity market for over 20 years. So Joe, you launched AJOT in 2018, and I think it might be helpful to understand what compelled you to do that at that time.
Well, as you say, we launched AJOT in 2018 to take advantage of a fabulous opportunity that we saw in the Japanese stock market at that time. Since then, it's grown from £80 million at launch to well over £280 million of assets today.
So you mentioned there was an exciting opportunity. What was that exactly, and how did that manifest?
Well, what we saw in the Japanese stock market was that there were huge numbers of companies in Japan that had accumulated surplus cash on their balance sheet. In some cases, the value of that cash exceeded the market cap of those companies. And along with the cash on the balance sheet, we found some really great operating businesses as well. And we noticed that the stock market really doesn't value the cash on the balance sheet. We believed at the time that the corporate governance reforms that were coming into place as a consequence of the three arrows introduced by the late Prime Minister Abe were likely to drive material change in the market and provide a tailwind to the stock market.
So you saw that opportunity, you realized that things were changing, you realized that conversations with companies were starting to be a little bit different, and that's why you decided to launch the fund in 2018. And when you did that, you put together some structures in place to ensure that the shareholders of AJOT were also somewhat protected. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, we were very concerned that the trust shouldn't trade at a substantial discount to NAV. So we put in place some discount control mechanisms. Firstly, we have a share buyback that kicks in should the discount widen to more than 5%. And along with that, we offer investors the opportunity to redeem their shares close to NAV every year. In addition, to show our commitment to the strategy, AVI agreed to reinvest 25% of the management fee that we receive in shares of AJOT through regular purchases on the market.
So after the transaction, the increased size of AJOT will mean increased liquidity for shareholders and also economies of scale, so overall the cost should come down. In terms of the investment process, and particularly the engagement process, how would that increase in assets affect your investment strategy?
Well, essentially it gives us more firepower to become larger shareholders in the companies that we're invested in. And that larger presence on the shareholder register enables us to become more forceful in our engagement and to encourage companies to implement the suggestions we are making to them.
So I think what is interesting around the engagement process and what differentiates AJOT from a lot of other funds out there in Japan is that the areas on which we engage really run the gamut. So we don't just focus on the balance sheets, we also focus on operational improvements, we focus on shareholder communication, we focus of course on capital allocation and shareholder return, and also on corporate governance, including ESG. And I think that does really set us apart. So since launch, AJOT has produced NAV total return of 102%, which is about 11% per year. What do you think it is about your approach that differentiates what you do and that has resulted in those sorts of returns?
Well, it's really the combination of identifying high quality, cash-rich companies that are materially undervalued by the stock market, and then driving through change through intensive and constructive engagement, utilizing our management consultancy approach to shareholder engagement.
So working alongside you and I, we also have a number of other members of the team, two of whom are Japanese ex-management consultants who come from top-tier global consultancy firms and who bring that wealth of expertise into the team. We also have a senior engagement specialist who sits in Tokyo. We have an ESG analyst, and we also have an investment analyst who helps support the team. So I think this combination of skill sets really sets us apart and allows us not just to do the in-depth research, but also to do the intensive engagement, which is a core part of our strategy. Most of our engagement is done privately, directly with the companies, but we can and we have gone public with some of our engagement. For example, we have 2 public campaigns currently ongoing, and we can see some details of that on the website. We have had a number of engagement wins so far this year, including a couple of companies who have gone through with some much needed operational restructuring, as well as 9 buybacks within the portfolio. We recently published a thought piece called The Corporate Governance Wave in Japan, and that lays out the evolution of the reform process that we've seen over the past 10 years.
And I'd encourage all Fidelity shareholders to take a look at it. The most recent policy directives from the regulators and the Tokyo Stock Exchange have made companies much more focused on their share price and on their cost of capital. Our investment team is well placed to engage with companies and to help management drive greater shareholder returns. We see great potential to continue our track record of strong returns for you, our investors. We very much look forward to welcoming you as shareholders of AJOT, and we thank you for your support.
If you'd like any more information, please go to www.ajot.co.uk, and thank you.